Even with all of these verses, people are going to call in a little while, and I'm not discouraging your call. You know, sometimes somebody told me that maybe the reason I don't get more calls is because by the time we put the numbers up, people have already seen that their objection has been stripped out from under them, and so they don't call. Well, I want you to call anyway because I want to talk to you. But people will ask, even with all of this description of the New Testament church and the music offered up in the New Testament church, people will still say, well, why don't you play? Why don't you play? Well, let me just clear up a couple of misconceptions. For one, it's not because it says sing. You know, sometimes people will say that because it says sing, we can't play. Well, that runs into some problems. Because it says sing in the Old Testament, and it also says play in the Old Testament. So if because it said sing meant that you can't play, well then you'd have a problem there in the Old Testament, wouldn't you? Because sing, the word sing does not exclude the word play. And you can see that back in the Old Testament, where it says sing and play. Notice that sing and play, to say sing and play is not a contradiction. It says in Psalm 33:3, sing unto him a new song, play skillfully with a loud noise. Let me blow it up for you. Now notice, it says sing and it says play. And so, you know, for somebody to say the reason we don't play is because it says sing. Well, here it says in Psalm 33, it says sing and it says play. And so the reason we don't play is not because it says sing, but rather the reason we don't play is because we do not have New Testament authority to do it. If any of those verses we went through, all those verses, we went through verse after verse after verse. If any of those verses, just one of them, if one of those verses said sing and play, then we wouldn't have a problem, would we? But not one of them does. That's why we don't play. Not because it says sing, because sing doesn't exclude play. What excludes play is the fact that God didn't put it there. Now people will say, and you know, you may go ahead and put the phone numbers up so people can go ahead and call and you know, maybe they'll be able to get their question in before I go ahead and preempt their answer. Let's go ahead and get the numbers up. But somebody will call and say that, well, it doesn't say not to. It doesn't say not to. Well, you know, the Bible doesn't say a lot of stuff. If the Bible had to tell us every single thing that we were not supposed to do, then it'd be too big for us to carry around, wouldn't it? The Bible doesn't have to tell us every single thing we're not supposed to do. Rather, what the Bible doesn't tell us that we're allowed to do forbids us from doing that thing. And so because the New Testament doesn't say to play, we can't play. And if you do play, then you're offering up something to God that He never asked for. He did not in the New Testament of Jesus Christ. He didn't want it. If He wanted it, He would have asked for it. But we don't see it described one time in the New Testament. We don't see the church offering it up to God in the New Testament. We don't have any examples of sing and play. We cannot find one disciple of Jesus Christ singing and playing praise to God. Not one. Not one. Okay? And so the reason we don't do it is because the New Testament doesn't say to do it. And so when somebody calls and says, well, it doesn't say not to, it doesn't say, you know, the New Testament doesn't say not to have Coca-Cola and pizza on the Lord's table. Does it? And so does that mean that, you know, I guess we could probably get a lot of visitors if we started having pizza and Coca-Cola on the Lord's Supper, couldn't we? Because people out there would say, well, it doesn't say not to, so it must be okay. Well, it doesn't say to do it. And silence forbids. I'm going to go ahead and take a call. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Okay, Yeah, I've got a question on Ephesians 5:19.
Okay.
Where it says making melody, the Greek word there is basalo.
Okay. No. The Greek word for melody is not psallo. The Greek word for psalms is psalmoi.
Okay, well, because I'm looking through my Strong's right here.
Okay.
And it's the reference, if you happen to have one, it's G5567.
Right.
And the word
it means pluck the strings, right?
A-L-L-O.
Right. It means pluck the strings. Psallo means pluck the strings. That's where you're going, right?
Okay. Yeah, they're saying that's the word that's being used there.
Okay.
In the Greek. So if it's saying pluck strings, then that would be playing an instrument, correct?
Well, let's look at it.
Okay.
You see it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It says, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Now, that's psalms is the transliteration of Greek word psalmoi, and you're saying melody is psallo. It says psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody, plucking the strings, right? That's what you're saying, plugging the strings.
That's what it's saying. I'm just going with the reference I have.
In where?
In your heart.
In your heart. So, I don't have a problem with that. And you know, anybody that is worth their weight in salt in discussing the Greek language would tell you that the word psallo has to specify an instrument. It has to specify an instrument. And anyone would tell you that I mean, that's not being dishonest with the Greek language. Anyone would tell you that when the word psallo is used in absence of a specified instrument, it's not referring to plucking the strings. It's referring to a type of music. Okay? But even here, if you want to say that it's plucking the strings, well, there is an instrument specified. It's the heart. You see that?
Right.
And so does that authorize mechanical instruments of music, or does that authorize us to pluck the strings of our heart in praise to God?
Okay, and
okay. Well, now wait. Let's go on because it's over here too. Wait, let me go on now. I'm not done. Colossians 3:16 does the same thing. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms, there it is, and hymns and spiritual songs, singing. Where's the instrument?
Let me see, where are you at again? Let me get over there.
Colossians 3:16. Let's drop those numbers so we can get the whole verse on there for just a second, please. Okay. You see it now?
Colossians.
Singing with grace. Where? Where's the instrument? What's the instrument specified? So both verses where that word is used, that people want to say authorizes mechanical instruments of music, that means pluck the strings. Both verses where that's used specifies an instrument, doesn't it? And what's that instrument?
That would be the heart, like you said.
That would be the heart, right?
Okay.
Now, where that word is used, it must specify an instrument if it means to play an instrument. But where it is used in absence of a specified instrument, I'm talking about the Greek syntax, where it's used in absence of a specified instrument, it does not refer to playing. It refers to a kind of music. Okay? So here, singing, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, there it is, psalms, psalmoi, singing and making melody in your heart. There's the instrument. Colossians 3:16, where the same word is used, psalms, he says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another, in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your heart to the Lord. And so it's the same in both verses. It's exactly the same in both verses. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but wouldn't in that context you're supposed to only sing in your heart as well, correct?
Pardon me?
I mean, if you're only supposed to play the instrument in your heart, since it says singing in your heart, that should only be done in your heart as well.
Well, it doesn't say to play. It says to sing. See, now, I'm saying that it specifies an instrument here. If someone wants to say that word means pluck the strings, well then here's your instrument that you're plucking on. Okay? Now, when you compose thoughts in your heart, where do they come out from? They come out from your mouth, right?
Correct.
Okay, there you go. All right? So there's, now, I would say that most people that are really being honest with the Greek here would say that there's no instrument specified, and so it's rather referring to the type of music not to plucking the strings of an instrument. Because look at the setting that it's used in. Teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. And so, what is the context? Kinds of music or instruments?
In that one, it would be kind